12, 2025 Council Services Committee meeting. It is 9:31 a.m. and I will call this meeting to order. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge that we meet on the traditional land of Treaty 6 territory and acknowledge the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory for centuries, such as Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Nakota Sioux, as well as Métis and Inuit and settlers from around the world. So let's begin with a roll call. Councillor Clark.
Present. Good morning.
Councillor Elliott.
Good morning.
Councillor Jans.
Good morning.
Councillor Morgan.
Good morning.
Councillor Parmar.
Good morning.
Councillor Paquette.
Good morning.
Councillor Principe.
Good morning.
Councillor Rutherford.
Morning.
Councillor Salvador.
Good morning.
Councillor Stevenson.
Good morning.
Councillor Tang. And Councillor Wright.
Good morning.
Good morning. I will now call for nominations for the chair of the Council Services Committee.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Paquette.
Councillor Paquette, do you accept your nomination?
I do.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I declare nominations closed. May I have a motion to elect Councillor Paquette as the chair of the Council Services Committee?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor
Second.
Salvador. Thank you, Councillor Jans. We don't need seconds at committee, but thank you. We have a motion on the floor that Councillor Paquette be elected as chair of the Council Services Committee. Please vote.
Yes.
Yes for me.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Councillor Principe is yes.
Thank you, Councillor Principe.
I think I still technically get to vote on this, so I'm a yes.
Welcome, Mayor Knack. We will add you. Councillor Tang,
Oh, I verbally said yes earlier.
thank you. We have all the votes. Oh, please display the vote. And that has carried. We will mark Mayor Knack as present and also voting in favor.
Point of order. I love our mayor. Is he truly a member, a voting member of this committee? Can we check the bylaws?
I would suspect that the council procedures bylaw would allow Mayor Knack to be member ex officio, but we can check that.
Okay.
For you.
I'm sure Mr. Mayor knows, and he's of course welcome.
Councillor Stevenson, if I might, when the mayor is present at a standing committee meeting, and they are otherwise not a member, the mayor may make motions and vote and must be counted as towards quorum for the meeting.
Well, great to have that clarity and glad to still have you on the committee, Andrew.
So I will now transfer the chair to Councillor Paquette to conduct the election for the vice chair.
Well, thank you very much. And we will now accept nominations for vice chair.
Oh, is there a vice chair? I nominate Councillor Elliott.
I accept.
Okay, we have Councillor Elliott. Is there any other nominations? Seeing none, I declare nominations closed. May I have a motion to elect Councillor Elliott as vice chair of the Council Services Committee?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Stevenson. Any questions or debate? Seeing none, Please vote.
Counselor Parmar is a yes.
Thank you, Counselor Parmar.
I'm a yes.
Thank you, Counselor Tang.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Counselor Elliott. Thank you, Counselor Jans.
Counselor Principe is yes.
Thank you, Counselor Principe. We have all the votes.
I'm a yes.
Thank you, Mayor Knack. We have all the votes.
Okay. With the NAC stamp of approval, please display the vote. And that is carried unanimously. Okay. So at this point, I will read out the declaration of pecuniary conflict of interest. Before we consider today's agenda, I will ask all members of council present if they have any pecuniary or conflicts of interest to declare regarding any of the items to be discussed. A pecuniary interest exists when an item could monetarily affect a member of council, their employer, or family member. A conflict of interest exists when an item could affect a private interest of a member of council, their employee, or their employer, pardon me, or family member. So do any members of council have a pecuniary or conflict of interest to declare? Hearing no declared pecuniary or conflicts of interest, we will move to adoption of the agenda.
I so move.
All right, moved by Councillor Elliott, and I don't have any notes in front of me. I think we're just straightforward on this. Yep. Okay. Any questions or debate on the adoption of the agenda? Seeing none, please vote.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Thank you, councillors.
Counselor Principe is a yes.
I'm a yes.
Thank you, Mayor Knack. Thank you, Counselor Principe. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote.
My apologies, we're having some technical difficulties. That motion carried unanimously.
Okay, fantastic. Now, Madam Clerk, I've been in eScribe, and I didn't see any minutes. Would they be indiligent?
Don't believe there are any minutes on your agenda to adopt today.
That's what, okay, great. So we cleared the board. That's fantastic. Okay. I am not aware of any protocol items. Okay. And no requests for specific time on agenda. Are there any councillor inquiries this morning?
Chair Paquette, we should select items for debate.
Oh, yeah, my apologies, yeah. We have two public reports, 7172, probably both kind of important to get through. Would anyone like to select those?
So I'll select 7172.
Great. Selected by Councillor Elliott. All right. Please vote for items selected for, oh no, we don't have to, we just move on. Okay. Great. So I've seen no requests to speak and no reports to be dealt with at a different meeting or request to reschedule reports. So we can proceed to item 7.1. And I'm not sure if we have a presentation on that, being the first time at Council Services.
Yeah, so we don't have a presentation for this item. The first item on the agenda is the Common Furniture Report Plan, but I can provide some short introductory remarks. So my name is Victoria Hendricks, the Director of the Councillor's Office Liaison Team, and I'm joined by Nancy Jacobson, the Director of the Governance and Legislative Services Team. The councilor's budget and expense policy requires that a recommendation for allocation of the furniture budget be presented at the first council services committee meeting of each year. In line with our previous practice, however, we've brought forward this report for the end of last year. So just in terms of process, if there are any changes that are requested, those will be made in attachment 1, and revised version will be provided for council's discussion today, and committee's discussion, sorry, and asked to approve and fund through the Office of the Councillor's 2026 furniture budget and 2025, sorry, if it can get in there in time.
Got it. Okay. So we've got the attachment on the floor. As far as I'm aware, everyone's had a chance to take a quick look through it. But for questions, we'll go first to Councillor Elliott, if you have any.
Just one question, just for clarity for myself. The remainder of the 2025 budget, which is 8749, I may have missed it when you just give that little bit of presentation there. Is that carried over for the 2026 as well, or it's pushed, it's just not?
So that budget does not carry forward. In line with the city's accounting process, items have to be paid for and received in the same year, so we're not able to carry that forward. But if any of those purchases that are on the list are able to be purchased and received in this fiscal year, we will be using the 2025 budget for that. And then if anything is received in the 2026 year, that budget will be used.
Okay, and thank you. That's all for questions.
All right, thank you. Councillor Wright.
Thank you. So we've got 8749 left. So if those councillors make those purchases now, we won't have a deficit then for 2026, right? Okay.
Yeah, and there it's the projected variance is $300. So I do anticipate that costs up to or exceeding that amount could be made within this fiscal year.
Okay, okay. And then I also have a question in regards to sort of what the standard office setup is, and what needs to come from the ward budget and what needs to come from the common budget. I'm just like, there's some offices like with dimmer switches, some without. There's some with cable, some without. What is sort of the standard, you know, we have light bulbs in our offices, but what else can we expect to be from?
So at this time, the expense policy is not that explicit. So what I've been advised on is that dimmer switches would be considered more of a building upgrade rather than part of a furniture piece. So that's something we could definitely take back though in terms of providing a list of what could be expected to kind of try and bring everyone to the same level, but that isn't currently in the policy.
Okay, so I've been told that those things have to come out of my ward budget.
Right now, that is my understanding of how it is used, yes.
Okay, so I can't put a request in, and others that may be in the same situation can't put a request in to have it come out of this budget?
A request can always be made from this budget for approval by the committee.
Okay, are you aware of others that are in the same situation?
I have heard anecdotally about that, but I haven't heard any requests for inclusion in this report.
Okay, can I put forward a motion that those such items, since we do have the additional funding for 2025, can come?
Yeah, Councillor Wright, it's Aileen here. What I had a chat with Victoria, excuse me, this morning, and what I've asked her to do is to get a list of what I would call sort of building or office enhancements that sort of fall between potentially what would be covered by property management and what might be covered by the common or the ward budget, just since there is a little bit of money left over. So if Nancy could help to draft something quite broad, I would like a chance to follow up with property management just to see what can be covered from a building maintenance perspective versus what needs to come from your budgets.
Okay, thank you. I hope you're feeling better, and I see Nancy nodding that she's on it. Okay, so no other motion is required then? It'll be... looked at?
I think the best might be to do, because we don't have a cost, so there's nothing to approve, I think the best way to do this would be a subsequent to Aileen's point, some direction on what you would like to see pursue. We would do that today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you happen to have a motion?
Can you give me 4 seconds?
Okay.
And
I will finish my questions and then, yeah, thank you.
So we can take the time to prepare that as a subsequent can be made at any point during the meeting while we're still in the meeting. Okay. All right. So we have got Councillor Clark on the board. Go ahead, please.
There you go. Thank you. I don't know if this is a motion on, but I think I found some savings. I'd like to remove the TV from my request for the 350 or whatever. So I will remove that because I got a sweet deal on one already. So it is covered, and that might be the savings we need, everybody. Nothing further.
Do we have to make an amendment in any way in order to save the city from this extra cost?
Sorry?
Do we need to make amendment in any way for that to be withdrawn?
So what I would suggest we do is everyone indicate if there's any changes to this one, and then we will do a motion to revise the attachment as per the discussion,
Perfect.
and Victoria will give you a new copy.
Okay. So while we're discussing this, if at any point anyone wants to make a revision, let us know. Okay, Councillor Morgan, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Just so I'm clear, following up on Councillor Elliott's question there, for 2025, it has to be paid for and received, or it just had, what if it's paid for but not received yet until 2026? Is that a thing?
No, it has to be received in 2026 is how our accounting procedure works.
Okay, so you, as long as, so if you paid for it in 2025, it would still go to the 2026 budget if you don't receive it?
That's my understanding. Oliver, could you provide some clarity? Sorry.
Yeah, so basically accounting principles, we must receive the goods on or before December 31st. Payment is not the strong criterion of expense recognition. So that's the key. If we receive the goods prior to December 31st, they will hit the 2025 books and the budget.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification. So again, well, I'll just, I guess, is that if you paid for it in 2025, but you don't get it in 2026, it goes to the 2026 budget.
So when you get it.
When you get it,
that's when it's in your hands.
That's when it gets attributed to the year. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions? No, I do have a quick question. And let me know if this is actually in order, about ward budgets.
We'll find out.
Okay, so as far as I understand, ward budgets haven't been substantially changed in a meaningful way since 2012, except for during COVID when council voted to reduce and freeze ward budgets. And in the meantime, in the city of Calgary, I think their board budgets going into 2026 are over $350,000 per office. So is my understanding correct there?
We were looking at the history. There was a slight adjustment done in 2018. That was the last increase of any kind to keep up with inflation and growth. But since then, there hasn't been any.
And that's the one that went up to 188, and then it was reduced and frozen after that. Is that correct?
There was a temporary COVID hold. We have been increasing ward budgets by salary settlements.
By salary due to union negotiations
due
reflected.
to negotiated agreements, but nothing beyond that.
But as far as the everyday work cycle of a city councillor in communicating with residents and serving their wards, that has not changed since 2012 in any substantial way, aside from the labor adjustments.
I think that's a fair comment, yes.
Yeah, okay. And do we have a specific number on the Calgary ward budget?
I don't have that information.
Okay. I do know it was prorated till the election to $305,000 and change, and now it's, but the full year is over $350,000. I do know that. I just don't have the precise number in front of me. So that would mean that by not keeping up with inflation of population, we've probably effectively experienced over a 30% reduction in our capacity to communicate with residents. Does that sound about right? Considering inflation rates since 2012 to today?
I hate to use the word napkin math, but I think to an extent, yes. I think we've had a frozen staff complement for a very long time.
Okay. Yeah. Although there was one adjustment which we could consider into that napkin math, and that is that for mail-outs, that is now covered by the overall budget rather than just individual ward budgets. I have that
Point
right.
of privilege.
Yeah, please.
I cannot hear Councillor Paquette speak at all.
Oh, sorry. Is that better?
That's better, thank you.
Yeah, just got to lean into that mic. Okay. So, Councillor Principe, I was just confirming, did you hear any of the conversation by any chance?
I did. It was just the last few sentences I didn't hear.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I was just talking about how you could say there was a minor adjustment in that now the cost for postage for newsletters is covered by the overall budget rather than individual ward budgets. Okay. So that's interesting to me. I will come back around at some point with some thoughts, perhaps. Okay, thank you. I don't see any other questions. So for item 7.1.
Another, sorry,
please.
another point of privilege. Sorry, I had requested to have my name added to the list. Sorry,
that.
I wasn't able to do that.
Oh, for sure. Please go ahead, Councillor Principe.
Sorry, Councillor Paquette, I could not hear you. I think you passed it to me.
Oh, I'm really, okay. Please go ahead, Councillor Principe.
There's some things wrong with your microphone, but I think you're allowing me to. Yeah, I just wanted to say in reference to Councillor Paquette's question about increasing ward budgets to better serve the people we represent. At what point would it be considered to be increasing the amount of counselors? Because I know that there is a certain period of time when it should be considered that we are adding 2 more counselors to council. When would that occur?
So go ahead, Aileen.
No, I was just going to say that's not sort of, that's a different question. So there'll be a review of the ward boundaries after every election. But I think what you're asking is if there is an opportunity to look at the ward budgets. I would say the time is really quite good as we're starting to review our needs for the next operating and capital 4-year budgets. So I would say if that's something that this committee is interested in, then perhaps as all of our branches and departments are going through our own reviews, but we could also work with the budget office and the budget team to provide the same opportunities to review not only your ward budgets, but also the common budgets. And that way we could all go through the same process together, just something for your consideration.
Right. So the reason I bring it up is because I was thinking if that was something that was possibly happening in the near future where we were increasing the amount of council, then I would consider not supporting an increase of ward budget if we were looking at increasing the council to 15, I guess. But if that's something that's not being considered right now, then I think that, but yeah, so it's something that's considered when there's a new election. Is it always taken into consideration then?
Yeah, so Council Principe, you're talking about, that's a different question. That's about the ward boundary review. And I can tell you right now, we'll be reviewing it. And I'd need to triple check the policy, but we just did a substantial review. And the new ward boundaries were implemented for 2021. I believe it is every 3 municipal elections, but I can just triple check the policy and let you know. But right now, there is nothing on my list that I will be bringing forward any recommendation to increase the size of council. If there was an increase in the number of elected officials, there would be a substantial increase in cost, and that is not on my radar for this next budget cycle.
Right, and I agree. And I just wanted to clarify to make sure that there wasn't a consideration at this point of increasing the amount of counselors if we're also going to be increasing the budget, the ward budget. I just wanted to make sure both weren't being considered at the same time. That's all. That's why I was asking. So thanks for clarifying that.
Well, thank you, Councillor Principe. Great questions. Councillor Salvador, please go ahead.
Thank you. So sorry, just to further clarify, right now there's not a regular cycle for reviewing ward budgets. It's been pretty ad hoc, it sounds like. Is that fair?
So remember, we did a review in the last council term. We did review your budgets, and there were a series of recommendations that did come forward. But no, as Oliver indicated, your budgets have not substantially changed in quite some time.
Right, and the review that happened last term, was that like is it cyclical? Like, is there a regular period?
I would suggest that every 4-year budget would be the perfect time to be reviewing any budget changes that need to be made to both your ward budgets or to the common budgets.
Okay, and what type of direction or support would administration be looking for in order to do that?
Oliver, I'm not sure if you want to jump in, but if that's something that you want to be incorporated in, I think you just provide direction for the office of the city clerk to follow up with the budget office as to how these budgets can be reviewed and come forward with potential recommended changes for the new 4-year budget.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So in the past, there would be, from the collective will of this committee, there would be a package that could be jointly developed with the clerk's office as well as finance, and that could include the mayor's office as well, which it was in the past. And we could bring a council-directed package for consideration for the next 4-year budget cycle.
Okay, great. And any wording to that effect would be appreciated. Thanks.
Great. I'm not seeing any other questions on the board. I do have one more question based on what Councillor Principe was asking, and that is, in order to grow the number of councillors, that would require more office space. And I know that we've got the mezzanine level. However, it would have to be completely developed because it's basically bare bones right now, right? And there is probably a substantial cost to that, and you probably have the number of councillors per floor. And there's mobility issues, I think, there. If you could speak to that, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, so, Councillor Paquette, there was a review done by IIS a few years ago as to what the costs would be to fit out that second floor. I don't want to represent IIS's numbers, but it is in the millions, and it has not been looked at for a number of years. So if that's something that you'd like us to revisit, we could craft a motion in such a regard, but it would require it is a significant cost to look at that second floor.
I'm in no rush this term, but thank you. Okay, so that is all the questions that I see. Motion to, how would we put it? I don't even have the words on here. Would anyone like to move the recommendations?
I'll move that the 2025-2026 Common Furniture Plan, as amended in Attachment 1 of the December 12, 2025 Office of the City Clerk Report, OCC 03266, be revised per the discussion. And approved and funded from the Office of the Councillor's 2026 Common Furniture Budget.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any questions or debate? I'd be surprised, but it is open. Seeing none, please vote.
Councillor Principe is yes.
Thank you, Councillor Principe.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Jans. Mayor Knack, are you still present? We will mark him absent. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried. Okay, moving on to item 7.2. Okay, you have subsequent for this prepared? Oh, please go ahead.
So thank you to the clerk for getting this ready. So that administration, whoops, my screen got blocked. That administration gather input from members of council regarding potential office upgrades for the office of the councillors and engage with property management to identify possible funding sources, including a carry forward of the unused 2025 budget, and provide a report to Council Services Committee.
Okay, sounds in order. I haven't seen the wording.
We're just loading it into eScribe.
Okay.
It should be on the screen shortly.
Okay, yeah, that looks good. Any questions or, and would you like to introduce it?
Just from my comments earlier about sort of standardizing what a councillor's office is as far as what are some of the basic services and that are provided. So that's my introduction, but I do have a question.
Okay, great. Please go ahead.
Okay, so my question is then, any changes then would not be made until 2026 until this information is gathered and identified, correct? Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Not seeing any. Please vote. Unless, oh, pardon me, Councillor Wright, would you like to close?
No, thank you.
Okay, please vote.
Councillor Principe is yes.
Thank you, Councillor Principe.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Jans. Just waiting on one vote. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried with one opposed. Okay, we will now move on to item 7.2. And this is the Councillor's Common Budget Travel and Conference Request for 2026. Any introductory comments?
So just similarly, we use a very similar process for the travel report as we do for the furniture report. So we do not have a presentation for this item. However, I will provide a couple short introductory remarks. So the councillor's budget and expense policy again requires that the recommendation for the allocation of the common travel and conference budget be presented at the first council services meeting each year. In line with previous practice, this has been brought forward to the end of the meeting, or the last meeting of the year. And with the process as well, should any changes be requested, we will revise attachment 1 per the committee's direction today. And you'll be asked to approve and fund the Office of the Councillor's 2026 Common Travel and Conference Budget. So please let me know if you have any questions.
Okay, and just for awareness, this is council's plan, and it can be changed as time goes on, as new information arises.
Yeah, so per the policy, ad hoc requests can be brought forward for approval throughout the year. So this doesn't have to be set in stone. This is just the plan for as we know it.
Okay. Well, we'll start questions with the mover, or with the selector of the item, pardon me, Councillor Elliott. Do you have any questions?
Just one. If we could reference the attachment 1 for the 2026 Common Travel Plan. I don't know if you're able to provide just a breakdown. So, for example, the Calgary Stampede, it's 3,000 and 2,000. And just for my understanding, what's the discrepancy between the two?
So if I may address that question a little larger, for events such as Alberta municipalities and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, those are directly called out within the policy. So we provide an estimated cost based on previous expenses. Calgary Stampede, the costs there were based on requests that were made in November.
Okay, and I guess that'll be similarly when I look at this, the budget cost, for example, Ottawa's 3,100, St. John's is 3,100, and I know that there's, I think, well around the room, as this is a set estimate, right? Because it could be, what happens to funds that are under? Does it just go back, and is that carried over as well, or it doesn't work that way?
Yeah, so within the year, it is just the $73,000 that is the budget for travel, and it doesn't carry over year in terms of our accounting process. It is just used within that year.
Okay, thank you then.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Stevenson.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick clarification for FCM and AB Munis. Those are both being held in Edmonton. Are the costs, estimated costs, just related to registration, or is the expectation that we are able to book accommodation?
Let me just pull up the exact, I believe it's all related to registration, and those are estimated registration costs right now, as they are not available yet.
Okay.
But yes, that only represents registration costs at this time.
Perfect. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, good flag. Any other questions? I'm not seeing any. As far as Stampede, I have a question. In the past, usually if there's a new council or there's a new provincial government, it's been encouraged that councillors go down to Calgary Stampede because it is, people don't go for the rides. When you're a politician, you go for it's basically the largest governmental event of the year in Canada, where all orders of government attend. And so there may be further requests on Stampede that would increase the budget, and that is now codified into our funding for those kind of travel, that kind of travel to the Stampede, where it wasn't before. Is that right?
Stampede is not specifically within the policy. It is included in the attachment based on requests from councillors.
I see. Okay, I thought we had added it to policy. No, then. Okay, interesting. Okay. All right. Now, sometimes there's an unwillingness for councillors to go to Stampede because it's not understood that it is this actual work process. And so, are there any sort of flags or concerns about including that into policy?
It's council's policy, so council can provide direction on how they would like that updated.
Okay. All right. Understood. Okay. Great. Food for thought. Those are all my questions as well. Would anyone like to put the motion on the floor for this item?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Tang. Any questions, or actually, would you like to, do you have any desire to speak to this motion? Okay. Any questions or comments? All right. And to administration, do you require it to be read out? No. Okay. Great. Councillor Tang, would you like to close?
Nope.
All right. Please vote.
Councillor Principe is yes.
Thank you, Councillor Principe. We're just loading the vote. Just waiting on one vote.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Jans. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried. Okay. I will see if we have any responses to councillor inquiries, none that I was aware of. Would be surprising. Oh, but it does look like we have a subsequent motion on item 7.2. Right. I was actually going to move all the way to motion, so yeah, please go ahead. Sure, I can put it on the floor. That administration review the ongoing common and ward budgets for the offices of the mayor and councillors and provide an unfunded service package for consideration as part of the 2027-2030 budget deliberations. And don't have a due date for that, but
It would be the 2027 budget.
yeah. I'm wondering, should we have a conversation about beforehand?
There might be a friendly amendment. There's an amendment.
But no, I think we're good. Okay, that's good. All right. So that is the motion on the floor. The wording will come up in a hot second. There it is. And are there any questions?
Do you want to look at the chat and you can maybe restate?
Look into the chat. All right, sorry. Oh, a slight change. We've had a change to the wording.
I think you could restate it.
Let's restate this. That administration do an independent review of the ongoing common and ward budgets for the offices of the mayor and councillors and provide recommendations for an unfunded service package for consideration as part of the 2027-2030 budget deliberations. And this will need to come back to committee, so whenever that date is
I
appropriate.
think what we would do is just drop for consideration as part of the 2027 budget and say and provide a report to Council Services Committee. If you like it, then you can recommend it to the 2027 budget. So that'll bring it back to Council
Right.
Services.
Okay, sounds good. Everyone clear? Okay. Maybe just to introduce it, I did sort of in my questions ask about the last time that the board budgets were updated, and that was over 13 years ago. By the time we get to the next budget, that'll have been 14 years. The only thing that has changed is the salary of our staff based on salary adjustments through union negotiations. So what that means is that we have absolutely not kept up with population growth or inflation, and for councillors who've been through sort of the grist, you know how challenging it is to get word out, and so I will leave it at that because I may want to close. Are there any questions? Not seeing any? Okay, I'll close. And therefore, I think that it's probably a really good idea to take a look at this and review. I mean, we actually froze this as well during COVID, so there would be no adjustments after we had sort of reviewed this. I think it was in 2018. And one thing that we hear a lot is that, or we did over the summer and leading into the summer, was that folks were feeling less and less connected to decisions at City Hall. And one of the issues around that is the inability for councillor offices to actually have appropriate budgets with which to communicate with the public and to ensure that there were, regular newsletters going out, regular information, because all of that costs. It costs staff time, it costs councillor time, it costs money for printing, for mailouts, that sort of thing. And the world has obviously rapidly changed since 2012. There have been technological advancements, but also technological requirements. But there are also just the very human requirements of the fact that our populations have grown. There are more language needs than there have ever been. And part of that is also equity. And also, for example, I heard of a counselor who needs to get some ASL assistance in order to communicate with a resident, and that would come from the ward budget. Well, with budgets as constrained as they are, that suddenly becomes a very difficult proposition and hard to serve that community. And, when we're talking about the ward budgets, I mean, we should not forget about the front office staff as well, who have requirements, get requests, and they have only specific amounts of money in order to provide the support that they need for counselors. And so we should be taking a look at that as well, and that'll probably come up in the conversation there as we move forward. But, and in comparison, I think we brought it up, and I'm actually not, by the way, not supposed to read something off of a document in the closing, so I will just say that the Calgary budget is over $350,000 per counselor. They have more counselors than us, and they're not serving larger populations than we are in our wards. And maybe the last thing I'll mention is we each serve on average about 100,000 people. City of St. Albert has 8 elected officials as far as I'm aware, and a mayor, 8 councillors and a mayor. So to do our jobs to the full extent that we require, I think that we really need to take a serious look at how we're funding this and bringing that sort of communication and connection back to our communities. And that's it. Please vote. I am a yes.
Councillor Principe is yes.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Thank you, Councillor Principe.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Jans. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that has carried. Okay. And that is the end of our items. I will just do one more check, see if there are any further subsequent motions. Not seeing
Sorry,
any.
point of order.
Oh,
Can't
yeah,
hear the
please
chair
go ahead.
again.
Yep. Can't hear the chair. Okay. The voice, in this room now, my voice is incredibly loud, just to let you know. So that is it for the public reports, then the agenda. So I'm not aware of any responses to councillor inquiries. And maybe this mic is a little bit better. That feels a lot better. I was made aware of no motions pending or any notice of motions or motions without customary notice. And I'll just double check that in case anyone needs the opportunity. No? Okay. And we are adjourned with great thanks to our amazing clerk's office and support staff, and specifically Victoria Hendricks.